G'day, listeners. Welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer. It's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors, and of course, I have to share the mic duties with my two idiot mates. So first up, welcome, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
Hey, Pete.
Busy.
Good. We're all busy.
So much on. I mean, I'm having trouble keeping up. There's just so much sailing going on. I think we're going to have to make the shows longer.
Why don't we just record permanently the whole time and never stop?
Yeah. But it's cool, isn't it? It's all back in, including here in where I am in Sydney. So the regattas are all starting up. So winter series, winter racing. So it's all happening.
Cool. Well, let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bost.
Gents, pretty excited about today's episode, as a matter of fact. And before we reveal the guests, though, I'm going to have to put in an apology for next week. We're heading off on our first four-wheel drive tour hosted by the founders of Defenders Oz as part of a fundraising effort for the Variety Club, for the Bash.
Oh, well, that's good.
That we're going to be doing. And I cannot confirm nor deny the state of which I'll be in from Thursday through till Monday next week.
Is Snowdy going?
Oh, yeah, Snowdy.
Well, I can confirm the state.
Middo.
I can confirm the state.
So, no, all good. I'll be it'll be just fine. But, no, quite excited, actually. It's quite satisfying, this raising money stuff. And it's all for a good cause. So I'll be putting on Bar Karate, our Raisley page. So if everyone just delivers some money, that'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's for the kids.
It's all for the kids.
All for the kids.
Cool.
Yeah. And winning, of course.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in that order.
Boys, before we kick in with the guest, I just wanted to point out it's been a devastating week for me here on the Sunshine Coast. Property prices have skyrocketed over the last few months up here. We're all got super rich because, the value of our houses has skyrocketed, but they've got the Australian Future Stars team, laser team up here training at the moment. So the Sunshine Coast is full of laser sailors, and so property prices have plummeted.
Mate, property prices have diminished.
Those little mongrels running around everywhere, making
all those fit little bastards everywhere, making everyone look bad.
Can't
Dropping a fair bit of late with us, but you got to love.
Have you got down there, giving them a few tips, Jordan?
No.
Just hike out a bit harder.
Yeah, hike harder. Yeah.
Do it how I used to do it. Just get a bigger head. That works. Weight jacket required. Negative.
I was talking to Maya last night, and she's going, it seems a bit stupid spending $10,000 on a boat. And I said, yeah, you get the same effect buying one hammer for $10 and hitting yourself in the head, So, anyway.
Yeah. No, enough laser beating.
Let's not beat the lasers.
Fantastic boats, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly. Yeah. Good on them. But easy to have fun against. Right, let's bring in we got a lot of... Geez, I'm worried about this episode, boys. I'm really worried about this episode.
I think you should be.
Yeah, it could go...
And that's not from us.
I would be worried if we were recording at 8 o'clock last Saturday night, but we're not. We're doing it quite early. So, it's going to be 100% serious. What? 23% of the time.
All right, well, let's bring in the guest because he's sitting there antsy to get some conversation in and throw his bit into this. So, basic intro, sailing the America's Cup, 4 round-the-world races on various boats in the Volvo Ocean Race, and is now the executive director of the Ocean Race, mind you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Richard Mason. Maso?
Yeah, g'day, boys. Good to be there. I tell you what, mate, it sounds like you're getting ripped off with your hammers if you're paying $10 for them. They're $5. And if Bice is going bush in the Land Rover, you better send it down to him because he'll need it.
Exactly.
I was waiting for the dig.
Need more than a hammer. I actually rang the mechanic to order a pack of spares.
Yeah.
He's bringing his own car.
I was going to say, how much is going to be left of the fundraising once they fix the cars?
Oh, dear.
Good on them.
Talk about stupid. All right, mate, so the first question to you straight up. I'm going to name 4 countries and I just need your reaction. So you're a confusing man for a young fella like myself. If I said Australia, New Zealand, Sweden and Spain, what do they all mean to you? Like, which one's home, basically?
Who do you work for? The tax department?
Well, funny you should ask that.
Well, my answer would be negative to all of it. Who are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Ever heard of a place called Guernsey?
I know you guys don't speak enough Swedish to understand it, so I'm all clear. Oh, yeah, that would be where I float around from time to time.
It's bizarre.
Just to keep things lively, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's called the best of all the worlds, Geordie. You know.
That's
Born
what it is.
Australia, raised in New Zealand. I'm back in Australia now. You know, just pull. It's like when the cricket's on or the rugby. I can change shirts at half time. You're guaranteed to win.
Yeah.
Not the rugby. You've had one on for a while.
Well, that'll get a bite. There it goes.
I was going to bring that up till the end.
So,
Straight into it.
how'd you get into sailing, mate?
Me? Oh, geez. Well, I grew up on the west coast of New Zealand, you know, just surrounded by the sea. And actually, it's good. It's quite a good story because it was my mum's first boyfriend was the chef on Saramco.
Huh.
And, so she was out on the west coast. There's not too much yachting going on in New Zealand. It's all surf clubs. And back in those days, you know, they used to row the old boats in the surf, and Paul von Solinsky. So, and he was a chef on Saramco and invited me down to go and have a look at the boat when I was about, I don't know, I think it was about 6 or something. And that was it. I was just hooked. Peter Blake lifted me up on board, and I went and looked around this thing, and it stuck in my mind ever since. So I was destined to become an ocean warrior.
Hey, Maso, just putting a bit of a timeline on that. Your mum's boyfriend, whilst you were 6 years old.
Yeah.
Or ex.
And unfortunately, she had the smart darts to marry someone else. So Ivoni's still around. He's a legend, actually. He sailed on Lion New Zealand and was involved in Steinlager. And so he was actually sort of knew my grandfather pretty well. But no, he's sort of one of those people that you run into at an early age and leaves an impression. And before you know it, you're buying books and trying to make model boats to sail in the cattle trough, and next thing you know, you're sailing around the world on one. So yeah.
Was it dinghies? Did you get into dinghies to start with, or was it just whatever you could get your hands on?
Yeah, I was dinghy sailing. I don't know. West Coast she's pretty brutal out there. So I had a little P class called Stormy. Had a wooden mast. Took that down the beach. All the other kids had the fancy ones with the aluminium mast. So I only ever did really well when it was blowing like shit. And and then I did a bit of sailing in the FAR 3.7, which is a pretty tricky boat to sail. And then I was fortunate enough to get a spot way back in the day in the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron youth program. We were sailing the old Elliott 5.9s.
Oof.
So I did a couple of years in that, and was racing amongst the greats. And
who was part of that program at the time?
Well, it was being run by Harold Bennett, and he ended up being sort of race director for the America's Cup. He founded the whole thing. It was sort of his brainchild, and he brought it up. And I mean, geez, there's not too many. I mean, everyone that's been that program fed off to the Royal Prince Alfred and Royal Sydney. Everyone was running those similar sort of boats, and Jimmy Spittle came through those programs. You know, Stu Bannatyne. There's a lot of people at the top of the sport. I think Mike Sanderson spent a lot of time in their 5.9. I think he's still sailing them. You know, they picked sail. If you could sail them, you're doing well. Then we had Ray Davies and Hamish Pepper. All these sort of guys all came through there, and then we had this MRX fleet there, which we used to go, and the Etchells, which we used to go sort of, racing on the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays. We'd go and fire off some sprint racing in front of the yacht squadron. I mean, and there was just everyone was out there. Russell, Chris Dixon. So, from a young age, I was getting yelled at by those guys, and it was a pretty good breeding ground. And then off you go.
Yeah.
And was that where kind of the big boat stuff came from?
Yeah.
And
it was
just knocking about with those blokes?
Oh, very much so. You go through the youth scheme, and then, that was a good place to find crew for the MRXs if you didn't have enough on a weekend, and phone up Harold, and they gives you a phone number, and the next thing you know, you're sort of, tailing or trimming up wind for Chris Dixon, getting yelled at, and then you go.
It's a winch, not a cleat.
Yeah, exactly. Ease it, and so you either swim or sink pretty quickly out there. But it was amazing. We had Rod Davis and all these guys, jostling around. and a pretty strong Etchell fleet. And then I spent a lot of time with actually Richard Bazade. As one of the directors of Doyle Sales there, and he sort of took me under my wing, and I was doing a young 88 regatta down in Wellington with the mighty Ross Field, and the next thing I knew, I found myself up sailing those Grand Mistrals in Europe. And then we were off, one thing rolls into another, and 20 years later, still doing it. Well, now I'm flying a desk, which isn't nearly as much fun. But
so the Grand Mistrals, late 90s?
Yeah, 97.
Yeah.
Round Europe race, the original, the first round Europe race, when we all got paid in these thing called euros, and we were all complaining because we want to get paid in US dollars. We're like, we don't want that. Well, we're lucky we got paid at all, actually. But we had so much fun. It was fantastic. It was a pretty cool event because that was where the most of the whip-rear boats back then were using that for their sort of shakedown regatta. And then you had all the Orma 60s, so the trimarans, and then there was open 50s, open 60s, and then this fleet of 80-foot maxi Wondersign boats. I remember stepping on the deck of one just going, wow, this is massive, Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit bigger than a young 88. They asked me to service the winches, and I was just terrified, You look into the thing, it's like, oh, my God, Just make sure there's no spare parts left afterwards.
But being the man,
spares, there's lots now.
But being the man you were, you just jumped in there, right? Just took it on.
Oh yeah, yep.
I love it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, were you always wanting to go offshore, mate, or was it you just followed the path as it was laid out in front of you?
No, I think we were pretty fortunate in the timing of our careers back then. That there was a lot of sailing going on. As we came through, there was a pretty healthy whip-red race. It became the Volvo race, and America's Cup team. America's Cup's going on. That I think on average, most of the teams sort of had between 30, 35 sailors in them. So we were running the two AC boats with, I think we had like 18 crew on those things. It was orchestrated chaos. And then a lot of other Wondersign class sailing going on. And then of course all the sort of maxi circuits in Sardinia and what have you. Sort of so there was quite a lot of choice, and a lot of us were sort of doing we'd do the whip-read around all the Volvo, and then go and do a cup cycle, and then go back into the Volvo, just bouncing from one to the next. But I always, you sort of looked at it, and we do sort of, I'd say, the pro sailing, which was sailing with the owners and doing like the Maxi Worlds, and there was obviously a lot about getting those boats around the track, but there's a big element there of sort of keeping the owners happy, and it was the whole package, And the America's Cup, where you go out and race in ideal conditions for 2.5 hours, and then you spend 4.5 hours putting the boats in and out of the water and talking about what an amazing job you'd done easing the jib that afternoon, And you wanted to do a 5mm luff cart, and the sailmakers were so pissed off with you, they actually take the thread out of the sewing machine and just run it down the sewing machine down the luff with no thread, so it looked like they did a recut.
Oh, yeah.
And then someone would go out there and go, oh, nice, oh, that looks beautiful. And the sailmaker would just go, I didn't change a thing, you pricks.
Yeah.
Love it. But and then you get the ocean race, and it's just the ultimate challenge. That was the real sailing. It was brutal. It was every time you do it, you go, I'm never doing that again. No way. But it was just the challenge of going around the world, and it's totally different atmosphere on those boats and sense of achievement as you go around. It's a totally different team environment, and I just loved it. So in the end, probably not the smartest move in the world financially, but I was stuck to the ocean racing, and I don't regret it for one bit,
And that all kicked off, the Volvo with ASA?
Bicey, come on. You locked in your first go with ASA?
Good.
Oh,
good. I like
it's
it.
gone downhill already.
Yeah.
What do you normally say to there, right, Bicey? You say, keep the dad jokes to me.
Yeah, I've been practicing all week, that shit house. Kids wouldn't even get that one.
10 minutes, son. Jeez. Arthur Abloy was the first go round with the mighty Magnus Olsen. That was an eye opener, that's for sure. Yeah. Good bunch of boys.
And so how did it morph from the Maxis into the ASA program? Is it via Magnus or...?
Yeah, I was actually working for Doyle Sales at the time. So I was working up in Marblehead with Robbie Doyle and Brish Bazade, and we got approached to put the sale program together for the boat, and we put in a bid, and it ended up going with Norse and Andrew Lecht, actually, another great Australian. He was the head designer. But as a part of that process, Magnus invited me to come and trial. So I went and met the old Chessie Racing at that point, was in Hong Kong. And we'd brought that boat, and a bunch of us hopped on board there and brought it down via a typhoon to Sydney.
To Sydney, exactly.
And off we went. That was the beginning of it. And I don't know, someone was silly enough to let me on board and stick around long enough to get around the world. And that was the end of that. Just been doing it ever since.
What do you reckon you bring, like what's your biggest contribution, you reckon, on a boat?
Me?
Yeah. What's your main skill, you reckon?
Human forklift.
Human forklift?
Packing and stacking, racket and stack it. There was a lot of that back in those days. Being young and willing to do any job on the boat back then, it was every time you move the boat, you have to move 2.5 tons of gear. So I was pretty good at doing that. No, I know, mate. It's just maybe. You just a guy in the middle that ties it together, and
I might be able to answer this on Meso's behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically just keeping the vibe of the show rolling.
That's what I reckon.
In the sense of...
That's what I was asking.
Despite if it's moving 2.5 ton or it's making the boat go fast, and just keeping the boys on their toes, or having a bit of a laugh every now and then.
Keeping it real.
I reckon that would be the attribute. And having worked, obviously, with Meso in the past or sailed on a few different boats, that's extremely important.
Mm.
Yeah. I think you could sum it up as keeping it afloat at the right time, and I mean that quite literally on the odd occasion.
Yeah, I remember that phone call. She's a bit more than a tube of sicker, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not going to buff out.
Oh dear!
In a couple of those, so the old armpits and freezing cold water, going shit. I wonder if we're going to see the sun come up.
So what's the worst one that happened to you?
Oh bloody hell! The worst one. Ooh, shit.
Top 3.
Well, there's a few of them. Well, E3 was an interesting one. That was quite entertaining because, we were in a fair amount of strife there. But we were quite close to land, so we had plenty of options to get out of trouble quite quickly. Unfortunately, there was a Taiwanese frigate that wasn't too far away that could sort of keep an eye on us while we limped her in. But I think the best one was the mighty Sanya, because that thing that thing fell apart on 2 occasions. So with the Ericsson, the E3 thing, the whole bow flooded, and we had a big delamination in one of the panels up in the bow there. It was sort of progressing and getting worse and worse. And we had the sinking feeling. We rescued that one and managed to turn that one around and turn it into a victory, which was interesting. But the mighty Sanya, it was the first night out of the first leg in the Mediterranean. We managed to blow a much bigger hole in the bow of the boat. And it was quite funny. It was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It was a pretty rough first night. Most of the boys were struggling a bit, and I was standing there driving. You're a bit bleary-eyed. You haven't had much sleep, and I was going, "Geez, the bow's not coming out of the water like it should be." And bleary-eyed. I mean, like the pulpit was just permanently underwater. So I was getting the hint, and I was there with old Cam Marshall, and I was like, "Hey, Cam, would you mind just jumping on the wheel for a sec?" And I was like, "Fuck, this can't be happening again." And I went downstairs, and there was water everywhere. The whole front of the boat's flooded, and I just like, "God damn it," And I was mostly just pissed off, and I went and kicked Axel out of his bunk, and I was like, "Axel, better phone the Coast Guard because it's happening again."
And albeit on the first night as well, first night.
First night. And you're in trouble when on the boats they have these sort of through-hull fittings. I say through bulkhead fittings. Yes, they're all the boats all shut up, but the conduits where you put all the wires and hydraulic lines through, they're at the top of the bulkhead.
Puts him with
and
water.
There's water coming through that. You're just going, oh, this isn't great. No. And so we did the usual and fired all the pumps up and had sort of taken all the intakes off the engines to block, because if you take the intakes off, you can suck water out of the boat with those too. You got to get the generator started up before she floods so you can keep everything else going. And in amongst this total shit fight, our bowman had broken his ankle during the night as well. We had this Chinese crew member, Tiger, a great bloke, he's fantastic, but his English wasn't brilliant. And, there was a bit of a fury on downstairs, and we're trying to work out what our options are and sort of thinking, well, I was of the opinion that we should sink it, but
All the plugs.
but old Tiger comes through and he's pretty upset that breakfast isn't ready. He's coming on watch and where's the porridge, and I'm just trying to explain to him we're pretty busy at the moment. So, for him, he wasn't quite catching on. He hadn't heard the conversation that was going on.
Hadn't seen any water down below at all? Or?
Well, that was pretty common in that boat. But eventually it's like, why is there no breakfast? And I was just going, oh, geez, how do I explain this? And I was like, we're sinking. He sort of looks at me with a bit of a blank face. And I said, get your survival suit on. Huh? I passed him a survival suit. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Titanic, movie Titanic. Have you seen the Titanic? Yes. You're on it. His eyes went wide open. He shot out on the deck, and that was the last we saw him until we got in. So,
you want some breakfast? Open up the bow, mate. There's a couple of fish swimming around up there.
And it was pretty bad. I remember Bryce and I opened up the actual water type. Yes, we went to the Mercia. Fortunately in the Mediterranean, not too far away from anywhere, and we opened the front hatch and had a look in there, and there was fish swimming around in the bow. You could see, there was a hole. Yep. You could see
it's daylight.
Wow. And I'm thinking, shit, that's going to be one to fix. And by that afternoon, Bias, he's like, "Cheers, she'll be right, but we'll have her back in the race in Cape Town." I'm like, "Yeah, right, get on your bicycle, off you go."
She'll be right.
Those were the days. Days.
But that wasn't the first one on that boat. The worst one was actually when we blew the rudder out in the Southern Ocean in the leg from Auckland to Itajaí. We were actually in the lead. But the entire rudder decided to exit the boat while we're doing about 30 knots in a prefrontal system, and we were lucky to get away out of that one. That was a bit close, and then we lifted the boat out in Tauranga and saw the size of the cracks underneath the aft section of the hull. We had to keep going. We would have gone down, and no one would have known about it. So
wow.
Basically, we as a diagnosis, we think the windward rudder dropped out. And basically, however it worked its way loose, whether the deck was pumping and knocked the actual clamps off, the rudder popped out, and as the boat rolled back into windward, it snapped the rudder between the two bearings, or snapped the shaft.
Almost
so that
like
just basically
half out,
then rolled into a Chinese, and that filled up the whole aft section of the boat.
I was driving again. Oops.
And then just to reiterate. So when we lifted the boat out in Tauranga, there was a huge crack through the outer skin of the hull from the prop box all the way back to the aft runner chain plate.
Yeah.
So if that had opened up more like that, that's goodbye. So anyway, we got it back in the race.
Again.
Yeah, it was like it took more and more convincing every time we had to get boat, but we knew by that stage the boat was pretty much rebuilt.
It was actually, it's not about the boat, but that first night in Mercia, and I was saying to the team, look, this is going to be one, despite the tragedy of not completing the first leg, this is going to be one of the highlights of the race, in the sense that it'll be in your memory bank. Every other stopover, pull the boat out, pull the rudder out, blah, blah, blah. Little did we know. new rigging. No, not to mention going to bloody Madagascar.
D2 broke on the way to Madagascar, so that's another story. We broke the forestay. Actually, there's a lot of stuff that happened on that boat that we actually, in the end, we didn't actually tell anyone about it. Because it was just like, mate, you could write a book about the whole thing.
Yeah,
it was.
We could do that.
But strangely enough, that was one of the best teams I ever worked in, because we just never gave up. Even though it was as tough as hell, there was never any negativity about it, and we came back fighting every time. And that was a real tribute to Nick and Duffy and Mike Sanderson, that was sort of leading the team. We didn't tolerate any negativity whatsoever. We always lived to fight another day. So actually, when I look back, it was probably one of my best races ever.
Wow. Wow, that's quite the story, isn't it?
We have a T-shirt of the legs that we did, and then the legs
And
that
then Merce did for us.
we gave it to Merce.
Diversions.
They're so happy with the T-shirt, they sponsored the race in the next edition.
Yeah. That's good marketing. That's great marketing.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't.
Well, it took hours of strategy to get that one right.
Yeah, exactly. It's just good luck. You better be lucky than good. That was quite the race, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever? Who was in charge of your shore crew?
One Nicholas Bice.
I know that's where I was going. I was about to throw the blame on you.
Well, like, it's all commercial.
Yeah.
We got the deal with Merce, put it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. If that shit didn't happen, we wouldn't need the deal with Merce. Okay. Yeah.
That's a laugh.
Cool. And then you donned the magenta pants, mate.
Oh, blimey! Yeah, the old magenta pants. That was a good one.
Rolling out of Team Sanya into Team SEA.
Yeah. Well, I was doing again. Sort of getting close to being away from home for 300 days a year, sailing professionally. Shouldn't complain about it. It was very busy. It was great period in my life there. We were sailing on most of the top programs around the world, and I was actually looking to do that race with Ian Walker. Ian probably doesn't like me telling the story too much, but I'd actually signed up with him. I'd signed the paperwork, actually. Was sitting on my desk on a Friday night, so I was going to join Ian for that one. And then Magnus Olsen passed away. He had a brain hemorrhage, and he was sort of one of the coaches with SCA, and obviously with Rich and Johan and the Atlanta boys, I'd been working on and off with them for many years. And Richard Brees just phoned me when I was at home that weekend and said, they needed a hand with someone to sort of come and pick up the shore side of things and sort of get it rolling again. And I thought, well, that'd be, that was an interesting and entirely different challenge to sort of, Richard and Johan and the boys had put a program together to sort of re-establish an all-female team in the race. I think the last one prior to that was Heineken, actually. No, EF Language, probably. It was the last. No, wrong. It was Emma Sports too. That was the last sort of all-female race and a team in the race. So, and by the Volvo 70s, it sort of knocked all the females out of the sport because they were just such physical boats. You need to look like a rugby player when you started those things and moving the sails around. So unfortunately, it just sort of phased them out. I think Adrian Callahan did one or two legs in the first edition of the 70s. But yeah, so joined the SCA and loved it. She was one of the best jobs I've ever had in the race. Sort of, shore management, you sort of good technical hand in the boats and a bit of a coaching role and then a bit of a sort of management over the team. So it was a nice combination of being able to do a bit of sailing and being involved technically in the boats and overseeing some management side of things. And there was a great team in there. And it was very enjoyable year. It was great when the two highlights of that were when the girls won the import race in Abu Dhabi. I thought we were going to have to whisk them out of the country pretty quickly as the all-female team sort of hands it to the blokes. And obviously the leg went into the Lorient was spectacular because that was, it was a bloody tough leg up there. They were banging away and 35 knots to win, and the girls pulled the victory out, which was just awesome. So, that was, I think the legacy of that whole thing is carried on with Fabiola and the Magenta projects. It sort of kick-started things again, which was really nice. So it was a good project.
Did you keep note of some of Brad Jackson's comments along the way and go on and publish a book?
Yeah, no limit for this, but when you do Bar Karate Plus...
Bar Karate Uncut.
Yeah, X-rated, you have to be over 18. I'll happily divulge some of those comments. They were side-splittingly funny. No, we had some beauties. Yeah.
So you could say the SCA project sort of started your shore side of things. Did you miss at all any stage being out there in the long legs?
Oh yeah, for sure. I found the leg starts quite difficult actually. When everyone was heading off and they're getting in race mode, and I was just going, don't think I like
Now
this.
what?
I didn't like going to the airport afterwards, but
Now I've got to go to the Thank God They're Gone party. God dear.
well, it's none of that because they kept coming back. But Bicey knows that feeling. You're a couple of cans in and the phone rings. You're like, oh.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
No, it was, it sort of started that path. But, there was definitely times there where you sort of, I miss it now, a lot. The racing, yeah, for sure.
But you could say that it sort of started and led to where you are now.
For
that
sure.
be right? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty small industry, and it's a very small industry, really. And one thing leads to another. And I think at that point, Bicey was running a boatyard there, so we're working on a day-to-day basis, and there's sort of like an underlayer of people who, you got all the head honchos that are sort of going at one another in the senior management positions, and then there's a layer of people who make shit happen underneath, and
in the real world,
the job done. Yeah. So
just a yacht race, Bicey, isn't it? It's just a yacht race.
Well, it is just a yacht race, and it reminds me of one particular incident where myself, Canute Frostad, Tom Tauber, and Olivia, who ran the commercial side of the Volvo Ocean Race, went up for a face-to-face meeting with the upper management of Team SCA, because there are a few discrepancies along the way between the race and the actual team. And here at Bayside, I was sitting across from each other, just kicking each other under the table. This is bullshit. Can't you just sort this stuff out in the pub, you blokes? Come on.
We got there in the end.
No, we did. Which then, leads you into the obviously working for the race, Meso, and seeing the race basically evolve into now what is Volvo 65s and iMoccas going forward.
Yeah. Obviously you're a huge part. We spent 5 years working together there and delivering the last race, and working in the race organisation is so different to a team because you've got so many stakeholders. You got team owners, team members, crew, team partners, host city people, politicians.
She's in owners of the race. She ain't no simple walk chart, that one.
Oh, hell no. No, absolutely not. So the actual delivery of the race and the way the race operates is a pretty bloody impressive operation from start to finish in terms of, the risk and how that risk is managed, and, even just shipping. And you miss one ship and there's no race village, and then you got someone who's invested in the race from a host city standpoint, rather upset that, you haven't got there. So it is a very impressive environment to work in. Sort of, I guess they're a bit the unsung heroes because nobody really ever thanks the race organisation.
I guess it gives you a really, not coming from where you've come from, a huge perspective of what was going on back in the day to what is going on.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Plenty of times in the teams we're just going, what are those bastards thinking in the race organiser and blah, 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 blah. We didn't have the whole picture.
Sure.
And certainly when you got on the other end, and I first looked at like a host venue agreement for doing a stopover and just went, oh, my God. Who would actually do that? And you realise how clever some of, like, even our delivery partners, like Mayo and Colton, those guys in Auckland, that take on our event and manage to turn it into the success that it is, and manage to deliver it at in a profitable way. I would say profitable. For most of these events that we put on, it's breaking even, and making a couple of €100 is a good thing. So there's some very, very clever people, and there's so many people that go together to make this race happen. It's not just the crews that are out there, and I guess you see the sailors and what have you, and they're the ones that get the opportunity to take on this enormous personal challenge and stand on the boat at the end of the dock at the end of the day and say, well, I just sailed around the world. But we got so many layers underneath that. You got people in race control that stand there and say, well, we just got all these boats around the world, and I've been following them on a rolling shift in Alicante. You've got all the media guys that have pumped out these incredible numbers. You've got our logistics team, and I think like our logistics budget is about €8 million with a huge amount of risk to get everything around the world. So it's a fair old chunk of change to be managing, and so when you look at it collectively, like to pull the whole thing off, it takes an incredible level of planning, and it's not easy. It's it got the better of me. It's a pretty stressful environment to work in, but it's also great achievement. So, but seeing it sort of where it's evolving to now, with the 65s aging a bit, and the whole world of offshore sailing completely changing as we go into the the future of foiling, and how's that going to fit together in the Southern Ocean and things like that. It's it's going to be interesting to see sort of how it all fits together in the next one.
Well, I guess all eyes are on the new IMOCA rule with the size of the foils. That's an interesting thing that's just come up. So
yeah. Well, Nick can probably give you the history behind how we actually ended up with the IMOCA, because we went under Mark Turner. We were looking at designing a new fleet, and we actually went to all the designers in the world and just said, "Give us your ultimate multi-hull or your ultimate mono-hull crude racing around the world." And we sat there. We met with all the designers up in the different design houses. And we pretty quickly moved away from the multi-hull purely because cost. They're about anywhere from 12 to 14 million euros to put on the water. But also, if you flip one, you're out. It wasn't really the safety thing. They're actually safer in many regards to sail around the world, because the platforms are a lot more stable. And once you flip them upside down, that's you're actually still quite safe. You've still got 3 options. So in many regards, the monohulls are potentially much more difficult to sail. But you can always get them back in the race. And then we went down the monohull route, and I think we ended up at the optimum size being 63 feet. And then Vicey went back to them and said, well, how about you knock it into 60 foot and see what the weight's like? And it got pretty damn close to being an IMOCA 60, didn't it, Vicey?
Basically, the 4 of the 5 designers that we met with had a range between 60 and 65 feet, which literally looked like an IMOCA. So that was at which time, well, how about we try the combination of the two? Yeah. And it wasn't that hard to do without compromising too many ways, without making a ocean race boat fully crewed fragile, or making a single hand around the world boat slow and heavy. So, and then that led to us making the decision to go with Verdio to design the boat. We had a fantastic little design team running there, and had a bit of fun having some discussions on that way, Meso.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the eventual outcome was the boats like Charlie's boat that had just competed in the race, and Thomas' boat for that. Linked out, and Charlie Darlin's boat, and all of which now leading into. Well, I guess that was a bit of a line in the sand during the last race, and it's kind of reverted back on its head, and because basically the funds weren't there to fund and build a whole fleet of these Super 60s. Yeah. So the next progression was to welcome IMOCAs into the race, of which has been done, and we're going to see that unfold in the coming weeks with the Round Europe race.
Yeah, we saw Boris Herman actually.
Just about to say,
yesterday. So we've been working on that one in the background. Obviously, we got 11th hour there. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of other things we're sort of waiting in the wings. We know they're in the pipeline and they'll come through. Timing's a bit tight, and of course the old COVID thing certainly hasn't made running global sports events straightforward by any means. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think at the moment we're expecting a reasonable fleet of IMOCAs. We've got a very strong engagement from the 65 class. We've got 4 of them actually racing right now as we speak. They're in Stockholm, and 7 of them doing the Europe race. So I think the challenge with the whole IMOCA world for us is we're trying to merge our world into theirs and find a good balance to put a 4-year program together where there's crude racing in the ocean race. There'll be crude racing in the Europe race that we're piloting this year, and then you'll have the Route du Rhum and the Vendée Globe single-handed sort of classics, and it's a nice program and cycle for those boats to be going through. That sort of we're trying to take away the big build-up that we had for like an ocean race in the past, where you train for 2 years. There's a massive amount of investment, and then obviously the return comes over a 9-month period of the race, and the race is over, and then there's just nothing. So we're trying to, sort of put in different layers for partners. So maybe, they want to do a global event with us. Then they might want to do more European-based at a lesser cost, and the boats can keep changing hands and just make it better, ecology within offshore sailing. So, but it's going to take some time as we merge the cultures, and I think everyone's best intent of the Mocha class and ourselves is to achieve just that, and try and use the same class of boats as well. But they're looking pretty radical at the moment,
Yeah.
Oh, Alex's flight from downstairs job that he's got together there, that's a beauty.
Just for our guests who probably don't know too much about it, can you give us a bit of an idea of what's going to be the difference, if you like, between? I mean, we're using an Mocha hull. When you go to an ocean race, obviously it's crewed. There's different elements to the boat, and when you get into a Mocha race, you're solo. So there's obviously changes that need to happen. Can you give for our listeners? Can you give us a little bit of an idea of that?
Well, actually, the key one is the auto helm, and we've actually decided to leave the auto helm in.
Yep.
Which is potentially something you'd argue about as to whether that's ethical for crewed racing. But when you say crewed, we're talking about four crew in an OBR. So you knock that down to 2 people on deck at a time.
Yep.
It's still pretty short-handed racing on a 60-foot boat. So for the most, you're not going to see, when you first think about it, you think, oh, they're going to stack heaps of gear and they're going to put extra pedals and have loads more manpower, but it's actually not. You just and the boats are brutal, absolutely brutal to sail on, especially if you're going to sail. What we saw in the last Fende Globe was, you had these boats that have this incredible optimal performance, but they weren't able to sail them in that range very much at all.
Yeah.
Most of the time, those boats had the foils sucked in, and they weren't foiling at all. They were in displacement mode to get through a lot of these systems. And what you'll find with the crewed racing is that you'll spend more time in that higher performance bracket. And when they're in that higher performance bracket, being on board one of those things it's torture. We've flying around all over the place.
Yeah, we've heard some stories. So what you're saying then is that realistically the difference between the two classes is quite close. So
it'll be very close. There'll be more food. It's the same number of sails. There'll probably be a little bit more aggressive stacking, and there'll be an extra bunk.
Yep, perfect.
But effectively, it won't be massively different. I think when we first set out, we thought there'd be heaps of difference, and cockpit layouts and things like that definitely different. Especially when we've seen how aggressively some of the Mochas have gone into the covered deck corner and that sort of thing. But it'll look pretty weird. We're used to seeing import races with 10 people on the 65s, and all of a sudden there'll be 5 people on board the Mochas. It's going to be pretty odd. You get pretty busy. You're doing a dive.
Where it has it that Alex Thompson looked at doing the ocean race, and the only mods he had to do was have another couple of hooks for some dressing gowns.
Yeah.
A couple of closets for slippers.
Yeah, you just go up on deck once a week. Yeah.
The Barcarati import. The solution for the import race, of course, is our pursuit race idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that we will be in the import racing. You probably won't see the Mochas doing traditional windward lure type racing that we do with the 65s. They'll probably do more of a coastal race, something a bit more suited to the boats. It was quite interesting. We routed last Vendée Globe. We watched it very, very carefully to see what we could learn from it, and we routed one of our 65s, which we've got pretty good data for it, against the Mochas. Actually beat them around the world.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because the 65s will be able to cut the corner, and I think you can push the 65s a lot harder for a lot longer. So they when it gets well up into the 35, 40 knots in the Southern Ocean, you'll still be giving it hell on the 65s, and the Mochas you'll be backing off a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how they going around the world.
We've all discussed that.
Short race will be interesting.
It will. We've all discussed that. We wondered about that one. There is a tough question that has to be asked, is with the 65s, is it still considered a one design fleet? Because the boats have all sort of been under different hands now?
Gone their separate ways a bit, yeah.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're racing the Ocean Race Europe in one design configuration. That's not, how do you say, as strict as.
I guess the biggest change, Meso, is that the boatyard or the boats haven't just come straight out of a refit and knowing that every single boat is there, but going to a traditional one design class is exactly the same.
Yeah,
you must turn up with your boat in one design configuration.
Hang on, boss. Is it a traditional one design class like, say, an Etchell or
an Etchell or a J24 or a Far 40? Actually,
you
one
mean
design doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Why are your staunchions 15 mil further outboard? Oh, because that's where they were put. Yeah, right.
But it's probably given that this is certainly not a dig at Etchells, but given that they were all manufactured within the same configuration, there's not much error for movement from that point of view.
No, I mean, at the moment, we've been keeping a pretty close eye on them, and they've got to sign declarations.
I was going to say,
Coxie's still working very closely with them. Keeping an eye on how they do it. The sales are all still strictly one design,
right?
So all the gear that's supplied to the boat is still supplied by the same suppliers.
Yeah.
So effectively, yes. And they will go through a refit before they race around the world again, and they will be thoroughly inspected, and all the weights and corrector weights being equalled up. So when they go around the world, they'll be as one design as they ever were.
Yeah. I was just interested. It's Sail Poland that sort of tried to shorten its bow a little bit. Is that the?
Oh yeah.
They tried to make it telescopic on the side.
The technique was fantastic. I'd never seen that technique before. Normally we go to it with tools and stuff, so they just used a ship.
Yeah. Well, and apparently they got the call up to actually push that ship out of the Panama. That's how it really got out.
Hey, where were those blokes? Those blokes did a good job moving that other ship. Get there. Yeah, love it.
It's pretty unfortunate. I never quite understood. I remember I saw the footage of it and I was like, oh dear.
Well, maybe you didn't hear. We actually interviewed the skipper, there was many rumours did a steering cable blow out, but no, apparently they just fucked up.
It was a sand sheep, mate.
What was his name again?
Rick Disney.
The Polish skipper.
Oh, the Polish. Oh, what? Which vodka?
Hey, mates, while we're laughing, obviously, and for all the actual guys out there, we got to burn you a little bit just to get the laughs. So it's all good.
Oh, mate, it's all right. Torch away. There's plenty of flammable material over here. So.
With Ocean Race Europe, this is something to get fired up about. There's something coming up to watch. So May 29th, we've got the start of the Ocean Race Europe. So just let people know about that.
Yeah, so obviously with having been forced by COVID to shift the start of the main event a year, there was a bit of a hole opening up, and we were planning to try and find an interim crewed event that we would have run in between the two main races in the alternate year, and with that happening, we realised, well, let's just bring it forward. Let's have a go at it. When we first set out to try and put the Ocean Race Europe together, it would have appeared to be pretty crazy to be trying to do something like that in a COVID environment. But we felt that, we're in the business of running events, so we've got to try and do it as safely as possible. And with quite a lot of determination and a lot of hard work actually from our team, we managed to pull it off so far. And the whole priority of it really is to try and sort of focus on running a safe and good yacht race. So there won't be much interaction ashore or what we see the traditional sort of ocean race, but it's purely based around getting a good safe yacht race away. When I say safe, not just on the water, but from a COVID standpoint. So we have a lot of protocol in place and testing to keep the crews and people working around the race safe. And communicate as best we can. So and so far it's been pretty damn well subscribed, I think. We've got 7 of the 65s, and we have 5 Amoccas, and they're all pretty top teams coming out to come and have a race. And it'll be nice to have a bit of a shakedown and get something out there for people to get their teeth into. We're seeing some good racing already. There's a prologue going on right now.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's good, and to be honest, the timing couldn't be any better. You look at what's happened over the last few months of sailing, and there's been I guess you could say, a broader new audience being brought into sailing via the America's Cup and the Sail GP and all that stuff, which is gaining massive television audiences. And now you've got this to step into. If it's done right, there's going to be a whole new audience, and they're going to love it. The big events are taking place.
Well, it's not a stadium event, so we're not trying to stick 70,000 people into round a cricket pitch or something. It's or a soccer stadium, or I get up in that part of the world. But we can run the event. We can run it safely. We think we can. And it was a pretty big risk for us to take it on. But every week and day that goes by, we seem to be getting into a stronger and stronger position with making it happen. So, and so far we've the boats are just tied up in Stockholm actually overnight. So we've got 3 of the stops of the prologue that have gone off without a hitch. And as long as we can get the fleet out of Stockholm without picking up too much COVID and down to France safely, hopefully we have a great event.
Hey, I got an idea, boys. Let's run a book. Elapsed time between 65V IMOCA for the whole Europe race. Everyone we'll start up a PayPal account. Everyone just sends in $2. You may or may not get your winnings.
Yeah, I was just going to say, aren't you trying to raise funds at the moment?
all funds go to the.
What do you reckon, Mace?
Sounds pretty good, mate. I'd know I'd be putting my money on for the Europe race. Might not be the obvious choice either.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. We'll have to do a Europe race summary. We can do the truth about yachting at the end of the race, and I'll tell you who I put my money on.
Okay.
No, 65 will take it. Piece of piss. 100%.
Interesting, but it's going to be tricky going up the med that time of year.
Yeah, I was going to say when she's a bit sticky in the med.
Yeah, you might need to be able to flap your super wings to get them going. So,
Well, just quickly let people know the team. So, of course, the race starts in Lorient in France on the 29th of May, going to Cascais in Portugal.
Yep.
Then it'll go from Cascais on the 5th of June through to Alicante. Is there a little coastal race in Portugal as well?
Yeah, there is. Yep. So Paulo Mirapuri and the Mirapuri Foundation, so they own one of the 65s. Yep. And Paulo was involved in the last race with Turn the Tide on Plastics.
Man with the best hair in yachting, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, he runs a pretty slick hair.
Good dude. Love the dude.
Yeah. So he's actually putting on an event for more boats and Cascais, and our boats will be doing a coastal race there, probably a 50, 60 miler.
Yep.
There's a bit of prize money on the table as well, which should cover the beer costs. And then down to Alicante and
June 13 legs
up in Genoa.
Into Genoa. So Johan Salen obviously influenced that because
as we say in Italian, did you know?
Yeah, did you know?
I was going to say, it mustn't be much money on the table. It's about 80 cents for a beer in Portugal.
Yeah, it is.
Planning on drinking beer for half a year.
So in the 65 class, you've got teams from Lithuania, which is Ambassador 2. You've got the Austrian Ocean Race Project, the Mirapuri Foundation from Portugal, the Team Poland, who are from Poland, Viva Mexico from Mexico. Team 6 is Team Childhood, which I guess is a Netherlands team, really, because Sinian and Johnny Peter John Postma and Johnny Portman is on there. Sorry about that. And then you got the old Axel Nobel, which again, Dutch team, but headed up by Nico. So,
yeah, a pretty strong lineup.
Yeah.
Have I told you the story about Simeon Team Pump before?
Yeah.
No. I'll hold on that.
And we throw the Amoca class out there. You've got the 11th hour with Charlie and Mark, who's seasoned veterans of the race now. Bureau of Valley with Louis Burton. Is that his new boat?
Yeah. Yep. So he's the Occitan. That was it's a pretty radical looking boat.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that Shirel, which are a pretty bit of a powerhouse, and they're actually going to let design house for their new boat. So I'd be very interested to see how that boat goes. I think it's pretty quick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's radically different.
Yeah, the Coram boat.
Yep. 1K.
Yep, and then linked out with Thomas, and then the offshore German team Germany.
Offshore team Germany, yeah, they're a good bunch of guys as well. Danny Lash sort of involved there, and a good crew on that one. Be interesting because that boat doesn't have foils, but I think in the Mediterranean that could be to their advantage. I think they'll go just fine.
Yep. So it's going to be fun to watch. Like there's going to be plenty to see, lots to see.
I see the childhood. The kids on childhood handed it to Bauer when they went across from Poland to Stockholm. So there'll be a few bruised old boy egos reaching for the reading glasses in Stockholm, while the young punks are sort of. It'll be like Scott Beavis. He's all of us old fellas go to Maxi Worlds and we all end up sailing on these J boats. I remember going downwind one day with Beavis, and we looked over there, and you looked at the crew list, and it was just Rockstar Central. But he called it a slow-moving retirement village. I reckon if Will Williams heard that, mate, he'd be struggling to make it out of the bar alive. But it made me laugh.
That's very funny. Yeah.
Until I found myself on the same retirement village.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think it's that funny anymore.
I think the old teen childhood we could have a lot of fun with on here. There's plenty of little stories hidden in that boat. I think we may have to be careful. We got a spy on the boat though, so we're good.
Yeah, good, nice.
All right, cool. All right, well, just Ocean Race. It's time for everyone to get excited back on that one again.
Yeah.
What you mentioned Coxie before? Is there some sort of boatyard going ahead, or?
Yeah. So there won't be any boatyard in the Ocean Race Europe. We've even restricted the number of shore crew there. So basically, the crews have to work on their own boats. You can have your shore manager and I think 2 extra people to sort of help work with the boats around. But we're trying to minimise the number of people that we're moving through Europe. So, but for the main race, the intention is that there'll be a boatyard there for servicing the 65s, similar to what we do before, and it just makes sense, So one way or another, there'll be a boatyard there, and we'll try and the intention is to sort of make those services available for some of the 60s as well, so that things like sewing machines and moving dangerous goods around the world, and sort of some of the composite work that gets done can be shared. Yeah. But it's in a couple of stopovers. It's going to be quite an operation with the 2 fleets and that number of boats. We're going to have space issues.
Yeah, well, lucky you don't have boats that are really wide.
Based on, what's a IMOCA with falls out? It's about 14 metres wide.
Yeah, 13 metres at the end of the
tip to tip. Yeah, so to speak.
Pick up a bit of dock quickly. We're actually putting them on swing moorings in Alicante.
Oh.
Yeah, and having a rib to go out to them because...
just in the middle of the basin there?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so all the 65s are stern too, and the 60s we're putting on the
boats coming in at night time, dodging the boats. That'll be fun.
Yeah. No, well, that end of we're quite lucky in Alicante. There's not much activity down that end of the harbour.
Yeah.
Yes, you get a strong southwesterly, and then there's plenty of activity with waves bouncing over the back of the breakwater.
That is true.
Mate, so
I've launched the surf skis.
We're getting it was ski paddling. Is that where it all started for the sailing world? Do you reckon all the ski paddling that everyone's doing? That's what it's in Alicante. Everyone got into it big time.
Well, not based off me and Meso's efforts. I'll tell you.
No, there's ski paddling. There's a lot of swimming involved.
Yeah.
By the way, one think on for sale. Contact me.
Oh, yeah. Mate, so we're running quick out of time, but there's a couple of questions that I need to ask you.
No,
they're good. They're good. You'll enjoy them, actually. Inspiration. Who's inspired you the most or some of the people that inspired you the most in your career?
Oh, geez. I mean, I got two books that I don't get too far. I mean, obviously Peter Blake had a massive influence on me as a young fella, reading his books and sort of watching those boats coming in and out of the out of the harbours and being fortunate enough to actually be able to get involved in those boats as a young kid, bouncing around on the decks of them. So I think that was a big one. And then the other book that doesn't get too far away from me is Charles Upham's biography. And I'll bet you wouldn't know who he was, but he was a Kiwi soldier who got 2 VCs during the Second World War. And he's a bloody good bloke. He just he put everybody before himself. He was
2 VCs, jeez.
2 VCs, yeah. He's as mad as a cut snake. No, he's a great guy, fantastic, and there's a biography written about him, and he's probably one of the most. He put his men before himself the whole time, and so I read that book when I was pretty young, and so those are probably 2 of the guiding inspirations in my life.
We're trying to work out how to make Barkarati pay for itself, and one of the ideas we've come up with is that we're going to start reading and recording audiobooks, and then we comment on them as we're reading them.
Would you like to do a guest reading at some point?
Can't read.
Hey, mate.
Hey, neither can we.
Look who you're talking to.
No, I was just thinking, it doesn't sound, I don't want to make any fun on that book though. Like it wasn't one of our lists. I think we probably wouldn't do that one. That sounded pretty impressive. I do remember actually reading about him.
I would read that book if I was you, because you'll be able to comment on that. It'll be jaw-dropping. You'll have plenty of listeners. Pretty awesome. It's a pretty easy read because it's written in a great way. It's uses the language he used, and he was a man you could trust because he swore like a badger.
That's it.
So he'll fit right in. So I've got one question.
Okay.
Nick, can I move to the next question, Chief Jordan? Best boat. You've sailed plenty.
Oh,
between multis to bloody MRXs up to J boats.
Yeah. Best boat ever.
Which you just blew your mind in one form or another.
I think in terms of where it fitted in the day, we had that you were involved in it, the old Maxi, the Z86 Morning Glory that we built.
Yep.
Back in 2003, when that boat first came out, that was well ahead of its time.
Jeez. That's another episode, man. Me and Meso lived with each other in the Caribbean island of St. Martin for 3 months.
There's some stories. That'll be that's a book.
That'll be on our Patreon site. That one.
Well, we used to have a swingers party. Remember the swingers party? We saw on the docks.
Yeah.
We counted the 2 boats because Roy Disney had one and we had the other one, and we used to camp them in the opposite direction, put a barbecue down on the pier, and then just invite everyone down for sausages and beer. And we had a swingers party because our keels were swinging. So
I love it.
We were on the Dutch side, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. The other end of the lagoon. I think that boat was pretty influential of its time because it laid down sort of a lot of what we ended up doing with the Volvo 70s. So it was pretty cool boat. I mean, it's still around today.
Yeah, I'll concur, actually.
We took that thing around the world and we just won everything that we got into. It's a pretty neat boat. Reichel Pugh designed that one.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Built by Macca's. It was built up at McConaughey's.
Yeah. Reichel Pugh McConaughey built boats. They never go well.
Yeah. That was good fun. That was a pretty nicely balanced boat. And then I think those 1K boats, the E3 and 4, the E3 was just an absolute joy to sail. I've never sailed such a balanced boat. The faster it went, you could drive that thing with one hand at 35 knots in the Southern Ocean, no problem. When it decided it was going to slow down, it's a different story, but they just get in the groove, and the faster they went, the easier they were to handle. Just a beautiful piece of yacht design.
Wow.
All right, I've got one more, which is kind of related to inspiration. And despite present company, best you've sailed with?
Oh, best I've sailed with Neil McDonald.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah, good answer.
Hands down. I've sailed with them all. But in terms of a man, if he phoned me up tomorrow and said, Maso, we're going to go for a lap around the planet, and I'd just pack my bags and go.
Neil Mack would be a cracker to get on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Barker as well, actually.
Great guy. Great
He
guy.
is, he's, how do you say, he's never let his ego get in the way, and I've never seen a man sail a boat so well in the Southern Ocean. He just totally relaxed. He's got some great stories, especially the silk cut ones. Back in the days when the boys were smoking. Tell you some good stories. But I mean, he's a nuclear submarine designer. He's got the brain the size of a planet. They would never tell you about it. He's incredibly humble, and he's the epiphany of Neil is he'll never ask you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. And I remember on those Volvo 60s, we used to have some heinous sail changes with because all the sails went up, up a tough luff, and we had about 15 different reaching sails, and you'd just be power reaching and not giving an inch, and you'd be out there trying to do an outside change from a J2 or an R2 to an R3 or something like that, and you'd just be. And Neil would actually hand off the wheel to someone else and come up and get right behind you. You'd be sitting right behind you, up on the bow, ripping it down. And no, he's a great guy. I'd follow him into the fire any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great answer.
There you go. Let's push the stocks up.
If his stocks weren't already that high. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Globally, I think everyone's of the same opinion, so that's the truth.
And so, Maso, I write a run sheet of ideas of questions and stuff beforehand, and that's why Bicey keeps talking over me, stopping me question, because he's seen the last question I've got written there.
So I've got one more. Worst thing you've seen Bicey do?
Yeah, I got a run sheet.
That's another book.
Can you just play the funky fat bass? We're going into part 2.
That'll be another book.
Dear. All right. I think we're going to have to call it quits there, boys. We've sort of run out of time. I won't ask that last question.
Oh, go on.
Come on.
Yeah.
Bicey asked it.
Go on. Well, I'll tell you the honest truth. My bloody headphones have just failed on me, so I can't hear a word you guys are saying.
Oh, dear.
So, Bicey or BP, you take us out.
Oh, my God. Never had to do this before. Well, okay. We're going out. Thank you.
No, Maso, awesome to have you on, mate.
Pleasure, guys.
Plenty of stories left in the bank there. And that's probably for our X-rated version of Barkarati.
You can go for the bullshit cup. I'll see who gets that.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot up.
I think,
all right, cheers, Maso.
I think from all of us, a huge amount of luck for the coming events and obviously the ocean race, and we'll be following it very closely, and hopefully we'll get you back on really soon to give us an overall overview of it.
Yeah, a little update throughout the event. Be bloody good.
Yeah, no, give us a yo. Got my number.
Here.
Good on you, mate. Good to see you.
Nice, boys.
Okay, boys. See you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Old Maso, he's quite the icon in the world of sailing, and it's really good of him to give some time. But I think we were very gentle on some of the stories that were told.
Given I'm probably part of some of those stories, I think you were pretty gentle on me, to tell you the honest truth. But one thing you weren't gentle on, Jordan, was your headphones. Again, you've blown up another pair, and I have a theory.
Yep.
Basically, because you've got the over-the-top, the nice Bosies, and I think this is 3 or 4 pairs you've blown out. You've got to stop stretching them out. Do you get a custom pair like your custom ski helmet? Maybe you're going to have to.
Too big a head. That's it. I don't know what to do. Anyway.
Oh, the little wires head. No, don't.
No more.
No more. It's like Pavarotti's toilet. Get out.
And for those saying
strain protectors on.
For those just saying just get a couple of earbuds with the wired earbuds, we can't spread them wide enough around to fit around and over. So anyway, all right, let's move on. A little bit going on this week. We'll just speed through it. I don't think we want to get too much into stuff, but any Secret Pro stuff we can reveal?
No, nothing, but I think we're going to see a bit just popping up. Given things are really starting to move now, we're coming into the summer months in, the sailing season in Europe. So we're going to see a whole lot more on the water. But I tell you, and I hate to say it, but in the background, this whole Etchell thing, it's building. It's we can't talk too much about it, and it all will be revealed at some point in time. But it's sickening to the stomach.
It is.
It is.
I must admit, when we first heard this, we said that nothing good's going to come of this. Like it's going to be a bit of a class war. It could be the death of the class. What we can talk about though, we're for all the actual listeners out there, we're not trying to talk down your class at all. We the exact opposite is what we want. We want it to all go back to nice and happy. However, we get there, but. What I can talk about, I was flipping through the actual class website, and they've got your ruling and interpretations. They've got a list there where they ask for rulings and interpretations of the One Design Committee, and looking through that list that's on their website now, there's some people who are actually really screwing down onto some details about the class. So, we said.
I remember when this went on in the Far 40 class, early 2000s, like you say, screwing down on, should it be a Phillips head or a flathead screw or countersunk or pan head, like just getting into the nitty gritty. But I must say, Jordan, I should probably do a bit more research instead of being on Facebook talking about rainbows.
Well,
you see that bloody trail? That escalated.
You've got a bit on. You've got a bit on. Don't worry about the boatyard and don't worry about these Golden Globe races or anything anymore. You're going to become the world rainbow director.
Oh, mate. Well, we've picked up a couple of new listeners this week, put it that way.
Yeah. Rainbow listeners, I love it. Yeah, so just I'll just finish off on that actual point, and what Bicey raised is that they're just because it's come up as a discussion point now. Everything is going to come up as a discussion point. So, and that's basically what's happening, and it's going to be pretty tense times, I think. So let's just hope that
tense times is an understatement. But I can say just before you finish, sorry, Jordan, I can say that the status at the moment is trying to get these measurements, and once that's done, then that's when it starts really.
Let's just let sane heads rule. We'll see. But I think everyone's going to be forming up in their camps, and that leads to war. So, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. Let's go sailing. I do want to say, is there a listener of the week this week?
Yes, we do have a listener of the week.
Listener of the fortnight. Listener of the fortnight is because he wasn't on last week.
Oh yeah.
No,
not bad. And I think this
week.
guy deserves this. We've mentioned him on the show before. And he's always willing to put in his few bobs worth here and there, keep an eye out on a bit of Secret Pro, and keep us updated in his local, what he's up to in his local, and that goes to Brett Shivers this week.
Yeah.
There may or may not be a merchandise pack on its way.
He's hard to track down, though. That's the problem with him.
Keep the comments coming in, and just keep us updated on all sorts of things, not just Brett, but everyone for that matter.
What
and
did he win for?
You may achieve listener of the week.
What did he win for?
Huh?
What did he do that was made him stand out?
I think since our inception, he has been one of our constants who's listened to the show, who also shares a lot of our content.
Yeah.
So as a just an overviewing. Brett.
Yeah, okay. And we are definitely going to hook up with Brett one day because he's got a great job that we could have a lot of fun mucking around with. So
absolutely,
we're gonna bump into Brett one day and we'll tell you about it. I'm not sure if we're allowed to say what he does. I think it's kind of secret. So anyway, so moving on. Any news on Olympic classes? Right, have we that vote's that's tomorrow, isn't it? 15th or 16th?
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one.
Okay.
We'll break that one open. We'll get an inside goss on that. There is still a lot moving towards, pushing to keep it in, but there's obviously a lot pushing towards keep getting it out. So in turn, we're talking doubles offshore.
Jeez, what are you talking?
Doubles offshores, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, it is doubles. Oh, offshore. Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you boys
pardon the puns.
The front page on Sailing Anarchy about all this, and I was reading their front page, and I've just gone, oh, they're listening to Barkarati. All that information came from Barkarati.
So there's a lot to pan out and see what happens over the coming days for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's talk something really cool that's just finished. The Finn Gold Cup,
Yeah.
which is one of the prestige sailing events of the world. And
can I add something here?
yeah,
We know that the Finns are out of the Olympics, but I think the Finn Gold Cup and the Finn class will go from strength to strength, and I think that it will stay the level that it is. I thought about it this morning, and I looked at the calibre of people sailing those boats, and it's kind of like, like the Stars and those sort of boats. I think that it's just going to stay strong. There's no question. Looking at the people sailing these boats.
yeah, well, they're everyone that sails them loves them. So, if it wasn't, I suspect if it wasn't for the parity rule, the Finn class would still be in the Olympics. I don't think anyone wants to see them go, particularly because there's no real class for normal-sized people left in the Olympics. But massive congratulations to Andy Maloney from New Zealand. Who
Unbelievable story.
Well, the Kiwis in general.
Absolutely. Talk it up.
And an amazing story has come out of that. Obviously, Josh Jr. is the other Kiwi there, and both are fighting for Olympic selection. It's believed Josh was heading the ranks at one stage. But one of the things that's come out of that is that it stated that whoever gets in, the other is going to coach. So it's quite an interesting camaraderie on and off the water.
Training partner. Yeah,
sharing everything. No, well, not every sharing sailing information and all that.
Well, you're talking first and third in the Gold Cup. Now, if that's not a domination,
it's fantastic.
Finn Gold Cup. Now, we know the level of sailing that's in the Finns, and first and third, that's pretty amazing, obviously.
Yeah, and I don't think the Kiwis had won the Worlds before Josh at all. Or at least, what's a Gold Cup? It's 60 years, so I don't think the Kiwis won it up until Josh did, and then second year Andy. So big congratulations to them. Well, we do have to mention Juan Cardona from Espanyol into the silver position. So congratulations. Pretty big waves. Did you guys see the photos coming from?
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So
that win by Juan Cardona actually gave him the European Continental Qualifier, which I don't exactly know what that means, but gets him in for Spain, actually. So that's a great result for him.
Yeah.
Because he was fighting that out with Nenan Burgerin from Croatia. So pretty cool.
Are the Olympics? In bloody, like a month's time. 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Something like that. Yeah, so there's a lot of...
Yeah, just take it down to the wire, I guess.
Yeah,
and it's still not confirmed it's going ahead, just so you know.
No, exactly. That was the next question.
Yeah. So, talking the practice rates and lead up events, they've all been stopped. Okay, so
right.
And the dates that they can get into the village has been delayed. Not actually sure. Even the Australian, just talking to some of the guys from the Australian team, they don't actually know when they can go in and when they can get boats and how it's all going to work yet.
Wow.
But they're only they'll be hanging out with themselves and their coach. That's their bubble. Crazy.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, just back on the Finns, big C's. You're right.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to go into that because there's some cracking photos.
Yeah.
Absolute cracking photos, and again, it shows the level of sailing. I guess we could just have a quick chat about it. Jean-Bourg from Hungary in fourth, Nanand in sixth, Luke Miller sixth, and then Jake Lilly in seventh.
Absolutely.
So, had a chat to him yesterday.
Yep.
For you guys, to pass on my congratulations. He was confident and happy with his with moving forward, as I said, but he had a few tough starts. Was a winner of one of the races, so that was a good thing for him. But needed to work on his starts, he said. But other than that, his boat speed's good, and he's confident moving forward. But look at that fleet in front of him, far out, eh?
Fantastic.
It's pretty tight, isn't it?
It is fantastic.
Joel
Absolutely.
Scott back in ninth. Not that back in ninth's a bad thing. I'd love to come ninth. Hey? But everyone's gearing up for the Olympics, obviously, and there's going to be a big gunfight, I guess, as it gets closer. So looking forward to the Finn event, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, it is a good one. I can't wait to see that. We'll be living for that one. But also other good news, gentlemen. and this is probably the last point. We sort of alleged it at this when we were talking to Meso. Couple of new boats. So Boris Herman, who was on the show, the Team Militza sailor for the Vendée, has announced that they're getting a new boat.
Yes.
Awesome.
Did you guys see that?
Did
do out of the VPLP stable.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what progressions or what ideas Boris has out of the Vendée he's just done and seeing what the latest VPLPs are and see what he rolls with.
And
I'm guessing one will be with a pretty good anti-collision device on board.
but he's also going to do the ocean race, I believe.
yeah. One of the few, or one of the ones that are. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so we're excited. And, of course, Boris came on the show and new money, new boat, moving forward. So, another great outcome.
Show number one.
Show number one, yeah. We'll get him back on. We like Boris a lot. And then who else came on the show from the Vendée?
Oh, I'll talk about good things coming out of Bar Karate.
Yeah, go on.
Well, young Pip,
What happened?
our Pip Hare.
What
She
happened?
yesterday signed with Medallia again. So and getting a new boat.
Yep. So I think she's actually buying.
Was it announced she's getting a new boat or she just
no.
wrote,
No. She's
stay
buying,
tuned?
No,
Stay
she's buying
tuned.
Louis Burton's boat. Second.
Medallia have signed on, and she's all ready to go, and she's it's all
fantastic.
happening. Yeah. So
They bought Bureau Valley too, the 2016 generation boat, which Louis Burton sailed to third place in this race. That's on the Facebook page. So I'm not very clever in finding that one.
But again, look, it's that is
Self
a
praises, no
that
praise.
is a that is a story of guts and determination, and one we followed from very early on in the piece. Obviously,
Well, what's the common link, BP?
You?
No,
Well, they sail on mockers and they want to do the Vendée Globe.
Yeah.
and they've come on the show. If you look at all the
we-
people getting new boats, the 11th hour guys, Boris and Pip, it's due to coming on the show.
Yeah.
You know it's about Bar Karate. Look at last week, Nina Curtis, Sail GP. You know what it's about.
It's the Barkarati. It's not the curse. What's the opposite of a curse?
That thing.
Kissed on the dick by a Chinaman.
The blessing.
Scrub that one.
It's the blessing.
Whoops.
It's the Barkarati. It's the Barkarati lottery win. I don't know. It's the
Bar
blessing.
Karate lottery? No, not lottery, because that's a chance.
The
'Cause it's a
BK
certainty.
win. Anyway, basically, if you come on the show, good things happen. That's the truth of it.
Just leave it like that. If you come on the show, good things happen.
there you go.
That could be our motto.
Hasn't happened to me yet. I've had to put up with you two for years.
Well, could be worse.
Oh, dear. Well, I think, in all honesty, boys, I reckon that might be it.
Yep. Nice work.
Big news to come. Big couple of weeks coming up, obviously, with what we just said. So, look for all those interested. I'd say tune in and tell your friends, because Karate are going to bring it first.
Here. There could be a bit of big news on the horizon, gents.
Well, I've
Stand
heard
by.
that as well. Yeah.
Actual positive sailing news.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
Absolutely.
and again, another place associated with Barkarati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it on.
Rightio, boys.
Gentlemen.
Kicker in the guts, BP.
Yes.
Break out the old slide guitar.
I'll get it out. I'll just get it all up and hang on again. Let me tune up.
I love how you just start in the middle of the song.
Not bad, am I? Hang on. I love how I get my band going as well.
Yeah.
Every week the band sits in back behind me waiting to play.
Oh, more cowbell.